Hello, my name is Kimberly Arland, and today I will be showing you my research proposal in relation to the evaluation of the impact of implicit bias training for early childhood educators. My general research question is, would implicit bias training provided to early childhood educators reduce the amount of young black men being arrested? This would be research from an evaluation standpoint with an end goal of finding out the causes of high arrest rates in young black men. This is the best choice for this project because the results of evaluation research are aimed at discovering the effects of policy enactments. The feasibility of this research lies in the methodology used to obtain the needed information, which will show an easy and inexpensive implementation of experimental policies and surveying. This research is important to many Americans. In state prisons across the country, it is shown that African Americans are incarcerated at 5 times the rate of white people. Many criminologists believe that the cause of the high arrest rate of young black men is due to unequal educational opportunities early in life. Young black men are killed by police officers during arrest at least 3 times the rate of young white men, and American culture needs answers in order to save lives. The literature review written for this research shows gaps in this research that I would like to address. In researching literature for my proposal, I found 3 scholarly articles that have to do with my research but do not provide the answers I require. First, Stats found that black children were more often disciplined for misbehaviors that are subjective, such as excessive noise, while white children were given the same level of discipline for objective offenses, like vandalism. Nance researched the school-to-prison pipeline, discovering that teachers often unintentionally over-disciplined children of color and sometimes kept them out of gifted and talented programs. Finally, Smith and Harper discovered that black teens were disproportionately suspended from high school compared to white teens, finding in his research that suspensions have a high relation to subsequent criminal activity. Taken together, this research shows that, as most of them intended, that teachers do in fact hold implicit biases leading to the over-disciplining of black students. Furthermore, research shows that over-disciplining of black students has a strong correlation with those students later choosing antisocial delinquent behavior. Missing from this research is any research involving the implementation of implicit bias training, leading to my question. Based on the research by Smith and Harper, Nance, and Stats, showing that black students are disciplined at a far higher rate and for more trivial offenses, leading to an early connection to the criminal justice system, I believe there is support for my hypothesis. My hypothesis is that implementing implicit bias training into the curriculum for early educator certifications would reduce the number of young black men being arrested. The main population my research is concerned with is preschool classes in socially disorganized areas. The specific sample for this research project is made up of 2 classes of children in the same school district in a socially disorganized, multicultural area of a major city, beginning at preschool level, following them through their 20s. This type of non-probability sampling would be the most useful as these methods allow us to look more intensely at the subjects. Proposive sampling is the best fit for my research because I could choose similar educational backgrounds for the educators and ensure the schools the subjects attend are similarly funded and in the same area. As I've chosen the comparison group as well as the treatment group to ensure they have very similar opportunities from the beginning of life, but not who is specifically in each group, the research design used would be experimental. Experimental research will be the best for the study as it allows the researcher to decide on both the treatment and which group receives it. In this case, I would not use quasi-experimental design as non-equivalent groups would not work. Instead, I would require the groups of children to be as similar as possible, allowing me to know the treatment is the only major difference between them. The subjects for this study are all children beginning preschool in a socially disorganized school district. The experimental group will be educated by preschool and kindergarten teachers who received implicit bias training in addition to their educations and teacher certifications. The control group will be educated by preschool and kindergarten teachers with similar educations and teacher certification backgrounds, but with no implicit bias training. The post-test for both of these groups will judge involvement in the criminal justice system before age 30. As previously mentioned, the independent variables for this project would be that the teachers in the experimental group have received implicit bias training, but in the control group, the teachers will have had similar educations to the experimental group's teachers, but no implicit bias training. The dependent variable for both groups is the same, the amount of arrests by age 30 in each group. The dependent variable will be defined by any arrest without requiring a conviction. The reason for this is that my hypothesis has to do with black children being over-disciplined and thus arrested, not convicted. My research is more concerned with the involvement in the criminal justice system rather than actual convictions. The dependent variable will be measured by at least one arrest by age 30 per subject. No matter how many arrests each subject has, their first will be the only one counted. I've decided to measure my results in this way to provide a clearer picture into whether or not the child eventually offends at all, and I'm not concerned with the level of reoffending. I want to quantify how many of the children in each group go on to offend, not how often. I will be able to collect my data in a couple of different ways based on the age of the subject. Prior to the age of 18, reports from the guardians will be required. Annually, beginning at age 11, I will contact the parents and guardians for subjects in both groups and ask that they report if their child was arrested for any reason. They do not need to disclose the reason, only if an arrest occurred. After age 18, I will be able to check public arrest records. This will also be completed annually. At the end of each calendar year, I will compile the number of arrests per group and continue to do so until all subjects reach 30 years of age. Because the sample groups are chosen in socially disorganized areas, this could cause a problem in reliability. There is a chance that the families may be unwilling or unable to participate. If this is the case, individual families may choose to exclude themselves from the study, possibly leaving the control and experimental groups uneven. However, once the excluded subjects become adults, I would be able to track them through public records and count an arrest that may happen after age 18, even if one had occurred in youth, since my measurement parameters only allow one arrest per subject to be counted. In order to analyze my data, after each subject has reached age 30, the amounts of first-time arrests for each group will be tallied and then displayed in a graph. The graph will be broken into first arrests by age per group. This allows the researcher to easily see how early the effects of implicit bias take hold for the control group and how long-lasting the effects of not being subject to implicit bias in early education may be in respect to involvement in the criminal justice system. This graph will also quantitatively demonstrate the difference in total number of arrests between the control and experimental groups. At the beginning of the study, when the children are entering preschool, each child's parents will be asked to sign an informed consent contract. They will be given in-depth answers as to the purpose of the study and asked to participate annually once their child reaches age 11 until they reach age 18. After the age of 18, consent will no longer be needed as public records will be available to track arrests. They will not get to choose nor know which group their child belongs to. Ethically, the parents could wonder if their child is in the control group, does that mean they're purposefully being left behind? To remedy this, they will be assured that both teachers have very similar educations and the classroom instruction will be standardized as the classes are in the same school district. So what does this all mean? The research project, while long, will require little effort from the subjects, be easy to implement, inexpensive, and give us a greater understanding of the school-to-prison pipeline. If the experimental group has a more proportionate arrest rate as their white classmates than the control group, I would consider my hypothesis successful. What we know as a society, and has been empirically proven, is that young black men are incarcerated at much higher rates than any other group of people. What we don't know is why. And if this research project could help solve even part of that question, perhaps it could become part of the bigger discussion on the matter. The implications of the study could be far-reaching. If my hypothesis is shown to be correct, the implementation of implicit bias training into the collegiate outcomes required of early education majors could be life-changing for many black young men. Frang discusses how when children are given an equal start, they are more likely to continue along similar paths, avoiding antisocial behavior. On the other hand, the strain theory of criminology states that given unequal opportunities early in life, those who fall behind are more likely to look for alternate, often illegal ways to keep up. If what is holding these children back is the implicit biases held by their early childhood educators, then removing or reducing those biases could reduce the number of black men involved in the criminal justice system, reduce crime in general, aid the economy, and perhaps even lower the number of young black men killed in arrest related deaths.